I've had a varied career. I've been in the horse business for 30-some years. I've had championship horses and riders that I've trained. My family and I have won all kinds of different awards. I've had best days ever there. I've been in music for years. I've sung in front of some famous people. I've met some neat people. I've had some best days there. I was in the ministry for a long time. I've had some amazing days there. And I was thinking, what could I talk about? And last night it came to me. I had 3 former students that graduated. Oh, I was a teacher. I had 3 former students that graduated in 1979. And they called me up last week and said, we were thinking about you, and we want to take you out to dinner. And you choose the place. And so I chose Vito's out on Queen Street because they have beer. Anyway, we met out there, and we had a wonderful time. And I have to tell you, I was humbled and honored with the things they said about me. You know, it's all the things that I hope young people would have got hold of. I've had a wonderful career in education. In 1991, I was the technical teacher of the year in the state of Pennsylvania. You don't know that because I got this big award. I got a free dinner and validated parking. I met the governor of the state and all these different people. And then when I came home, I thought it would be in the New York paper. It was the night the Gulf War broke out. So I thought it would say, Tom Shelley, da-da-da. On the back page, local teacher wins. That was a cool time. But as we're telling the stories last night, my students said, Mr. Shelley, do you remember the time you didn't show up for school? Now, I taught 35 years. I hardly ever took a sick day. And I'm like, wait a minute, time out, what? They said, do you remember the day you didn't show up? And after I thought about it, I did. And what had happened was I went to the school and said, Tuesday, I'm taking a personal day, and I got something to do. And, you know, they get to substitute and all that. So Monday after school, I sat up all my projects on the table, my grade book, all the things for the substitute to do, and I took the next day off. I came into school the next morning, came into my program early before I went to the office. Everything was done. Everything was graded. Everything was marked. All the projects were done. I walked down into my shop. My shop is about the size of a small supermarket. It's hundreds of machines. Not a chip on the floor. Nothing was busted up. I thought, substitute was really good. So I went upstairs to the office to sign in. And when I walked in, the secretary said, Tom, what are you doing here today? I didn't think they fired me because they didn't know some of the stuff I did. And I said, what do you mean? He said, your day off was yesterday. I said, no. You know, it was the day before. And they said, yeah. I said, well, who was a substitute? The secretary said, we don't know. So my students in first period were up in the English class. I went up, interrupted the class. And by then, the vice principal was coming behind me. Now, I won't tell you his name because he's a local guy, but he's a former Colt football player. And he's bald-headed, and the kids called him Helmet Head. And so I walked in the classroom. I said to the teacher, I said, can I interrupt for a moment? I said, guys, I said, who was the substitute yesterday? And they said, no one showed up, Mr. Shelley. And here's what happens when they can't get a substitute for a technical area. I taught machine shop. They'll use the academic teachers around, and they hate to come to the shop. And so for homeroom, they'll take their time getting down there. They're late, they leave early, and sometimes they don't even show up at all. So my students said they waited and they waited and they waited, and no one came. They did pledge of the flag. The seniors got together and said, we'll run the shop till the substitute shows up. They took attendance. They had to go to gym class and lunch and one other class during the day. They lined all the juniors and 10th graders up and took them up there. They sat down over lunchtime and graded the projects. And they were graded accurately. I checked them. I'd walked back through the shop and I saw another teacher that had been working in the area. I said, who was the substitute? He said, we don't know, Tom, but the kids were working as usual. They were doing their job. And then the history teacher had come down during the day to look for me. And I said, you know, Carl, who was the substitute? He says, I don't know, Tom. I couldn't find you. I figured you were, in the corner building something. So they ran this whole shop program by themselves. I said to the kids, I said, guys, we've got one problem. You forgot about liability. Can you imagine if somebody's child would have gotten hurt there? Now, these are all teenagers. What they would have said, well, who was the teacher? No one was there. Oh, that would have been in the newspaper. That would have been in the newspaper, guaranteed. So anyway, the vice principal's behind me, and we walked out in the hallway, and he said, "You need to punish them." He said, "They should have come upstairs and told us there was no substitute." And he knows me. If you're out of line, I'll be on you like a hawk on a rabbit. And I turned to him. I said, I almost said his name. I can't do that. "Mr. So-and-so," I said, "I'll take care of it." So I told the guys, I went back in the classroom. I said, "When lunchtime comes, do not go to the cafeteria. Come down to the shop." And they're all worried. So when they came down, I gave them a big pizza party. And in the faculty room, one of the teachers one day said, "Ha, ha, ha, you don't need Tom Shelley. That place can run without him," implying that I didn't do my job. I did. That was my best day ever. Thank you.